Hello everyone, myself Kuhu Sarkar. I hope you are doing well. So today I'm going to discuss about Greco-Roman period. So you know that Greco-Roman period and its literature is very much important to know the British literature, right? So here I'm going to give you a bird's-eye view about the Greco-Roman period, their background, the historical background of each and every period, and then I'm going to give you the writers and their writings. So here I'm only give you the writers and their writings, but after that I'm going to give you lecture on each and every writers and their writings and brief summary of their writings. So here let's start. The Greco-Roman period, also known as Classical Antiquity, refers to a significant time in history when ancient Greece and ancient Rome flourished and made profound contributions to Western civilization. It spans from around 18th century BCE to the 5th century BCE. So I hope you know about BCE. What is BCE? BCE means before Common Era or before Christ, and AD means Anno Domini. So here the history of ancient Greek literature divided into three periods. So these three periods are important. They are the Archaic period, then the Classical period, and Hellenistic and Greco-Roman period. So I'm going to talk each and every period. So let's start. First, before that, I'm going to give you and has historical background, like took this map. Here we can see that there is Lesbos, there is Sparta, Athens, Corinth, Argos. So uh, Greece was an archipelago, mean the group of islands, and here the small cities are there, were there. And when I talk about Socrates, I told you that there was a famous war which is called Peloponnesian War. So these war fought between Sparta and Athens. Though Athens was the most powerful city of that time, but Athens lose the battle because the politician of Athens took bribe, and they are most corrupted, and they took bribe and they let Sparta won the battle. So therefore Socrates, Plato and other philosophers rejected poetry, and poets they said that poetry is nothing, they just make people fool. So this is the little historical background which I thought to told you before I start. So here see the each and every period, and the first is the Archaic period. The Archaic period, which spans from 18th century BCE to 5th century BCE. The Archaic period marked the early development of ancient Greek civilization. City-states like Athens and Sparta emerged as important political entities. These city-states such as Athens, Sparta, Corinth and Thebes became the dominant political entities. The Greeks established colonies around the Mediterranean and spreading culture and ideas. So before Archaic period, from 12th century to 12th BCE to 9th BCE, there was just dark age. It was called dark age because nothing we can found from this age. So after that Archaic period, then Classical period, and then Hellenistic period, and after that Roman period started. So let's see. The period saw the rise of significant Greek poets and thinkers like Homer, who composed the epic poems Iliad and Odyssey. There are other writers also like Hesiod, known for theogony and works and days. So here, the Archaic period laid the foundation for Greek democracy, philosophy, and art, setting the stage for subsequent periods. Then the classical period. Classical period spans from 15th century BCE to 4th century BCE. So we know that archaic period from 8th century BCE to 5th century BCE, and the classical period from 5th century BCE to 4th century BCE. From archaic period, the famous writer Homer. Before that, Trojan War happened. Then the dark period was there. After that, archaic period and Homer was there, and other writers also like Hesiod, Sappho, which I will talk later. And then classical period come, and classical period also called as golden age. So let's know more about this period. This is the picture. The classical period was the height of ancient Greek civilization. It was characterized by remarkable achievements in various fields, including art, literature, philosophy, and politics. So it is also called Golden Age. This time the Peloponnesian War also happened, and this time was the leader was Pericles. Athens under the leadership of Pericles experienced a golden age of cultural and intellectual progress. The era produced great philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, who profoundly influenced Western thought, and great tragedians also there. Three great tragedians are Aeschylus, who was called the father of tragedy, then Sophocles, then Euripides, then comedy writers also there. They are Aristophanes. Aristophanes was known for old comedy because he was the first who wrote comedy, and he was known for old comedy. And then Menander, who was known for new comedy. So in NET exam also they ask who was known for old comedy and who was known for new comedy. So you have to write that Aristophanes wrote was known for old comedy, and Menander wrote known for new comedy. Then there was Persian Wars, where significant conflicts between the Greek and the Persian Empire, resulting in Greek victory and reinforcing Greek cultural identity. Then know about the Hellenistic period, which spans from 14th century BCE to 1st century BCE. And here we see the Alexander the Great, the picture of Alexander the Great. And we also know many writings about Alexander the Great, right? Like Spencer wrote many things, and other writers also. So the Hellenistic period began with the conquest of Alexander the Great, who expanded Greek influence across a vast empire stretching from Europe to Asia. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided into several Hellenistic kingdoms, each with its distinct culture and governance. The major kingdoms include Ptolemaic Egypt, Seleucid Asia, the Antigonid Kingdom in Macedonia. So I just gave you the brief history. During this time, there was a blending of Greek culture with the cultures of the conquered sorry, territories, leading to a rich cultural exchange and the flourishing of science, literature, and art. So then the archaic period, I am going to talk you each writer. The archaic period, which spans from 18th century BC and 5th century BC, as I told you before. So the writers are Homer, famous writer Homer, and his writings. Here we see the picture of Homer. His writings: first the Iliad, then the Odyssey. Both writings are based on Trojan War. Works Iliad and Odyssey. Then came Hesiod. Here is the picture of Hesiod, who was famous for theogony and works and days. Then Sappho. Note, most of her works have been lost. So you have to only remember about Homer and his work, and you have to only know the name of these writers and writings. Sappho, you can remember because Sappho was interesting. One second. Here is the picture of Sappho. So Sappho was a female writer, and she was living in Lesbos, and in her writing she talked about love and desire between the same gender. So it also seemed that the term lesbian came from her because she was living in Lesbos, and the term lesbian came from the word Lesbos. So let's see. Notable fragments of poetry and expressing love and desire. So she wrote about love and desire between same gender. So it is interesting. The classical period, now we see 15th century BC to 4th century BC, and the famous writers Aeschylus, who here is the picture of Aeschylus. So I try to put more pictures so that you can remember by looking at this picture. If you forget, please watch this video twice. So his famous writings: Prometheus Bound, Orestia, a trilogy including Agamemnon, Polyphora, and Eumendes. So this is important. Every time needs get asked this question. So Aeschylus was famous for Prometheus Bound, Orestia, which is a trilogy including Agamemnon, Polyphora, and Eumendes. Then next writer Sophocles. So you know about Sophocles. Here is the picture of Sophocles, and he was famous for Oedipus Rex, also known as Oedipus the King, and it is also a trilogy. The others are Antigone, Electra was his writings. Then the next writer, Euripides. Here is the picture of Euripides, and his writings are famous writings are Medea, the Trojan Women, the Bacchae, and then came Aristophanes. Aristophanes was the old comedian, right? Old comedy writer, not comedian, comedy writer. Here is the picture of Aristophanes. His writings are famous writings are various comedic plays including Lysistrata, The Clouds, The Frogs. There also he wrote The Wasps. So I took famous writings only, and after that I will discuss these writers also, right? Okay. So Menander was famous for new comedy. Here is the picture of Menander, and his writings are Tiscolos, Samia, then Perique Romini, the girl with her hair cut short, then Epitrepontis. So you have to remember these writings name because sometimes they ask in exam. Then Pindar also there. Then came the Hellenistic period, and in Hellenistic period we see that the writings are Apollonius of Rhodes. Then works are Argonautica, an epic poem about the journey of Jason and Argonautas. Argonauts. Then Callimachus writings are various poems including Atia and hymns. Then Theocritus writings are Idyllis, a collection of pastoral poems. Then Lucretius works are De Rerum Natura, translated as On the Nature of Things, an epic poem expounding on Epicurean philosophy. So you have to remember the name only, not the writers and writings. In my next video, I will only teach you which are important for exam. Okay. Roman classicism. Let's see the Roman classicism. Roman classicism refers to a period in ancient Roman history known for its admiration and imitation of the art, literature, and culture of ancient Greece. This period was characterized by a revival of traditional Romance values and a renewed interest in the works of Greek authors. Roman classicism had a significant impact on Roman society, art, and literature, and it lasted from 1st century BCE to the 2nd century BCE. So we see that Hellenistic period from 3rd century BCE or 4th century BCE to 1st century BCE, right? So after that, Roman classicism start, and the period division we can generally divided it in late republic, which spans from 1st century BCE. During the late republic, the Romans came into direct contact with Greek literature, Greek culture through the conquest and trade. Many Roman intellectuals and writers began to study Greek literature and philosophy, leading to the adoption of Greek literary forms and styles in Roman writing. So, Rome uh, defeated Greece, and after that the Greek culture they borrow the Greek culture, and they started writing. So here we see that Romans were influenced by uh, Greek culture. Then Augustan age, you know, the famous Augustan age. First was there the triumvirate. They are one minute, Pompous, then Julius Caesar, and there are other. Let me see 1 second. So there are the three triumvirate first, and they are Caesar, means Julius Caesar, Pompey, and then uh, Crassus formed the first triumvirate. After that, Julius Caesar rose to being dictator, but he was killed by the uh, people of Rome. Then their new triumvirate emerged. They are Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. So you know that the play of Shakespeare, Antony, Cleopatra. There we can see also these triumvirate are there. They are Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. After that, when there are another civil war started, which was called the Battle of Actium, which fought between Antony and Octavian Caesar. Right. Then Octavian and Cleopatra died in this war. You know the plot. And after that, Octavian Caesar came and he took the title Augustan. And then the Augustan age came, and it was the, we can also say that it was a golden age, and it was also praised because it was enriched with culture, literature, philosophy, and everything. So let's see more about Augustan age. The reign of Emperor Augustus 27 BCE and to 14th century BCE is considered the golden age of Roman classicism. Augustine encouraged a revival of traditional Roman values and prompted cultural patronage. He supported writers and artists who emulated the Greeks' achievements while celebrating Roman history and mythology. So he just tried to spread the culture, the literature, philosophy. He support these poets and writers, right, and you know that in neoclassicism also called Augustan age, because in neoclassicism in England they also said that we can also write like the Augustan age, the writers like Horace, Virgil, Ovid, we can try to imitate them, and we can try to write like the classics. So this is also called the neoclassical age, because they are trying to make it new, and it is called the neoclassical age or Augustan age. So now you know that why it is called the Augustan age, because of that, because in the emperor of in the time of Augustus, he supported these writings, and it was a revival of traditional Roman values and prompted cultural patronage. He gave them patronage, and he supported writers and artists who emulated the Greek achievements while celebrating Roman history and mythology. So here we see the other age, Silver Age, which spans from 1st century BCE. The Silver Age saw contribution of the Augustan spirit, but literary works began to explore more complex and satirical themes. Writers during this period often critiqued the society and values of their time. So here we see the Silver Age. We can see that they are now writing in complex way. They are writing in complex way and in satirical manners. And here we see that Plutus and Terence. Plutus and Terence are the comedian, not comedian. They are comedy writers, and they wrote comedy in vulgar way. They try to write comedy like Menander and Aristophanes, but in vulgar way, and it's more like the Restoration period comedy, the comedy of manners, like comedy. So they most of the time they took stories like a king falling in love with servants with maid, these kinds of stories. Sorry, sorry. So they try to write like this. Then Silver Age, you already right. Then writers and writing. Let's see writers and writings of Roman classicism. Virgil 70 BCE to 19 BCE. Here is the picture of Virgil. So Virgil, also known as Publius Vergilius Maro, was an acclaimed poet of the Augustan age. His most famous work is the epic poem Aeneid. So this story also based on Trojan War, which tells the mythological story of the Trojan War hero Aeneas, the legendary founder of Rome. So here we see that Virgil, he wrote about Aeneid, and which tells the mythological story of the Trojan hero Aeneas, the legendary founder of Rome. Then we see Horus, 65 BCE to 8 BCE. Here is the picture of Horus. Horus or Aquintus Horatius Flaccus was a prominent poet during the Augustan age. He wrote satirical poems, odes, and philosophical works. His most celebrated collection is Odes, which celebrated Roman virtues, expressed love, friendship, and wisdom. So Horace, Horace was important writer, and you also know about the philosophy of Horace, right? So I will talk about this also. Then we see Ovid. Here is the picture of Ovid. Publius Ovidus Naso, commonly known as Ovid, was a versatile poet of the Silver Age. His most famous works include Metamorphoses, Metamorphoses, a poetic narrative of Greek and Roman mythology. So here we see that how you can make love with your lover. So this all about metamorphosis. Okay, no, sorry, metamorphosis mean how it is also a love story, and how you can transform, like Kafka's novel Metamorphosis, right? Here also that some people transforms. So here there are many stories taken from mythology, and how some people, some gods and deities, they are transforming themselves. It is called metamorphosis. All about this. And next, the Ars Amortia, a poetic narrative of Greek and Roman mythology. And then Ars Amorita, the art of love, how it is more like Kama Sutra, that how you can make love with your partner, and some kind of a humorous guide to love and seduction. So it is also humorous guide of to love and seduction. So there we also know that uh, Augustus may give him exile, and Ovid have to leave the state. Then we see Seneca. Seneca, here we see Seneca, the revenge tragedy, you all know. So here I got to know one interesting fact, that Seneca was ordered to commit suicide by the king Neros. So he was accused to do treachery, maybe it was wrong or right. So he ordered to commit suicide, and then he and his wife both commit suicide by cutting their vein, and let the blood came out. So it was pathetic. So you know that Seneca's revenge tragedy also famous. So that's all. And there are also the Roman tragedy like Seneca and Roman newcomery, like I told you before, that Plutarch, Terence, and Cicero. Cicero was not a comedy writer, so I also talk about Cicero, and Plutarch and Terence also the comedy writer. So that's all. If you like my video, and if you like my way of speaking, so please support me by subscribing my channel, and please like, comment, and share to my video. And thank you to give your time. Thank you very much.